Assalamualaikum and greetings to my fellow viewers. My name is Luqman Arif bin Zulkarnain. I am a master's student in data science and analytics. In this video, I will be presenting on my case study for mathematical statistics with computing with the title of Socioeconomic Determinants of Poverty in Malaysia. For the first part of the presentation, we will go through with the background information. So, as stated by the Department of Statistics Malaysia in 2023, Malaysia's poverty rate has fluctuated in recent years, rising from 5.6% in 2019 to 8.4% in 2020 due to COVID-19 pandemic before the declining to 6.2% in 2022, which affects more than 400,000 households. Moving on to the second part of the presentation, which is the data description. So in this study, 5 data sets from the Department of Statistics Malaysia will be used, such as the population data, basic amenities data, profile data, agriculture data, household income and expenditure survey or HIES data. These 5 data sets will be merged as one data frame. So these data sets were retrieved from the Department of Statistics Malaysia official website, or known as the Open DOSM. So for this analysis, the data will be filtered focusing on the specified variable across Malaysian states in the year of 2022. So the merged data sets will consist of 16 rows of observations that represents the states in Malaysia, and a total of 12 columns representing the variables contained from the population, amenities, profile, agriculture, and also the survey data. Moving on to the next part of the presentation, which is the objective of this case study, which is to identify the relationship between poverty with other variables such as population, income, expenditure, and amenities. Therefore, a hypothesis was proposed assuming the significant level at 0.05 or 5%. The null hypothesis will be stated as there is no relationship between poverty with population, income, expenditures, amenities, and agriculture. Whereas for the alternative hypothesis will be stated as there is a relationship between poverty with population, income, expenditure, amenities, and agriculture. Moving on to the next part of the presentation, which is the methodology. So the first part is the data collection, where all the data sets was retrieved from the Open DOSM websites. Once the data is collected, we move on to the data cleaning. So in this step is crucial to remove inconsistencies, missing values, and errors that might affect the accuracy of our result. So we use techniques such as filling missing values so that we can proceed with the analysis. After cleaning the data, we perform the descriptive statistical analysis. So this helps us understand this distribution, central tendencies, and variability of our data sets. Measures such as mean, median, standard deviation, and frequency distributions are calculated to summarize the data effectively. Next, we conduct a correlation matrix analysis to examine relationships between different variables. These steps helps us identify patterns and potential influences among the variables, which is important for further modeling and predictions. So in this case study, we use the Pearson correlation and also Spearman rank correlations. And finally, we use the data visualization techniques to present our findings clearly and effectively. Data visualizations such as graph, charts, heat maps, and demographic data helps us better understanding the trends, patterns, and relationships within the data. Moving on to the next parts, which is the results and findings. For the first part is the correlation matrix. It can be found that the negative correlations for average income, average expenditure, sanitation, pipe water, and electricity has demonstrated strong and steady negative link between these factors and the poverty rate. Interestingly, it was found that the planted area showed strong positive correlation explanations which implied that this factor contributed the increase of poverty rate in Malaysia. By using the Pearson correlation and also the Spearman correlation, we have obtained the significant variables such as pipe water, sanitation, electricity, average income, average expenditure, and planted area. And all of these variables are considered significant, which is less than 0.05. Moving on to the next figure. So based on this figure, which is the scatter plot, we can see that there is a trend between the pipe water, sanitation, electricity, planted area, average income, and also the average expenditure. So one of the important insights that we can obtain based on the figure is the inverse relationship between the income, expenditure, and the poverty rate. So as the income and expenditure increases, the poverty rates tend to decrease. This is because higher income allows the individual to afford basic necessities such as food, healthcare, and education, which ultimately improve the living standards and reduces the poverty rate. Interestingly, we can observe the positive correlation between the planted area and poverty rates. And this study suggested that the region with larger agricultural land tend to have higher poverty levels, and one of the possible explanation is that the agricultural-based economies are often more vulnerable to economic instability, climate risk, and infrastructural limitations, which contribute to higher poverty levels. Looking at the basic amenities such as pipe waters, sanitation, and electricities, we see that better access to these basic amenities is associated with lower poverty rate. And this study highlights that the importance of government investment in the basic access to amenities to improve the quality of life and the economic opportunities for the communities. Moving on to the next figure, which is the average income by state in Malaysia in 2022. It can be demonstrated that the Kuala Lumpur, Putrajaya, and Selangor was recorded the highest average incomes due to high concentration of economic activities such as finance, professional services, and technology in these urban and developed areas. Next figure is the pie chart, which depicts the average expenditure by states in 2022. So it can be demonstrated that Putrajaya has the highest average expenditure at 11.1%, while Sabah was recorded the lowest average expenditure at 4.2%. This is because that Putrajaya status as the administrative capital where residents employed in high-skilled industries and government sectors tend to have more disposable income, leading to higher spending. Moving on to the next figure, which explains the access to amenities by state in Malaysia in 2022. So it can be demonstrated that all the states in Malaysia generally have adequate amount of access to electricity and sanitation coverage. However, the access to the pipe water remain uneven, having that Kelantan with the lowest rate at 72.67%, followed by the Sarawak at 76.96% and Sabah at 81.67%, which reflects these regional infrastructure challenges influenced by the factors such as Kelantan rural setting, topography, and past underinvestment, as well as the logistical difficulties posed by Sabah and Sarawak's vast and remote areas. Moving on to the demographic visualization in terms of the poverty rate by states in Malaysia in 2022. So it can be demonstrated that Sabah has the highest poverty rate in Malaysia at 19.7%, followed by Kelantan at 13.2%. This is because Sabah was remotely located and is predominantly in rural population. The Kelantan was considered the second highest poverty rate in Malaysia in 2022 is because of the reliance on the agriculture, limited industrialization, and low private sector investment place economic strain on the state, with both facing heightened the poverty rates due to challenges in addressing income inequality and ensuring fair resources distribution. The analysis for this case study has provided valuable insights regarding the relationship between the poverty rate variables such as population, income, expenditure, basic amenities, and agricultural activity. So the main outcomes from the descriptive statistic and correlation analysis has highlighted the significant role of the economic well-being and access to essential services in reducing the poverty rates across the states in 2022. The Pearson and Spearman correlation matrix consistently show strong negative correlations between poverty rate and average income, average expenditure, and access to basic amenities such as the sanitation, pipe water, and electricity, with p-values below 0.05 significant level. This result has indicated that these factors are statistically significant predictors of the poverty rate in Malaysia. On the other hand, variables such as planted area has showed strong positive correlation with poverty, which implies that this particular factor significantly influence on the rising of the poverty rates in Malaysia. To conclude our analysis, we reject the null hypothesis which stated that there is no relationship between poverty and the studied variables. Our findings provide sufficient evidence to support the alternative hypothesis, confirming that poverty is influenced by factors such as income, expenditure, and access to basic amenities. Based on these findings, we recommend targeted policy interventions, especially in states with high poverty rates such as Kelantan and Sabah. Policymakers should prioritize investments in income-generating activities, ensure equitable resource distribution, and improve access to essential services to reduce the poverty effectively. Overall, this study highlights the critical role of economic and infrastructural factors in addressing the poverty rate in Malaysia. So, by implementing well-planned policies, we can work towards sustainable poverty reduction and improve the living standards. That is all for my presentation. I hope you enjoy this video.